Hey there guys, it's Liz here, your integrative health practitioner, and this is a very impromptu video on a Sunday night as I'm getting ready to do my coffee enema, where I'm going to be walking you guys step by step through how to do your coffee enema. So if you are not watching this on Instagram, you're watching this on another platform, make sure that you do hop on over to Instagram at Biohacking Bombshell, and I have an entire highlight surrounding coffee enemas and different topics. If you're watching this on Instagram, if you haven't seen that highlight, make sure you go through that because I've shared some of the critters that I found in coffee enemas, just answer a lot of different questions surrounding enemas in general. So make sure that you check that out. We have a lot of archived stories, posts, etc. on coffee enemas themselves. And I have even done posts before where in the caption, I've written out step-by-step instructions on how to do this enema. But I know many of you guys are visual just like me, and to the best of my ability, I'm gonna give you that visual on exactly how to do that. But if you wanted the actual written out step-by-step instructions, there are past posts that have been archived in that highlight that you can go check out, screenshot, and keep for your reference. Okay, so the first thing that we need to start with is boiling the water so that we can brew our coffee in a French press. I'm gonna go through this step by step. So first things first, boiling the water, you want to make sure you have good quality water. That means distilled water, or if you need to do reverse osmosis, you could do that, but my strong preference is distilled because it's the only way that you're pulling all of the toxins, etc. from the water 100%. So you don't have to have a countertop home distiller like I have to get distilled water. You can go to the grocery store and grab gallon jugs of distilled water, keep them for when you're going to do your enemas. Okay? All right, so typically when you're putting together your coffee enema solution, you use 4 cups of water. So I personally like to use a little time hack that I'm going to share with you guys right from the start, where instead of boiling those 4 cups of water, I just do 2. So reason being because when you boil this water, you put it into French press with your coffee grounds, you let it brew for 20 minutes, and then it's done brewing, very likely you're ready to go do the coffee enema. You just want to keep the ball rolling, right? Well, if you boil all 4 cups of water and you're using all of that to make the coffee enema solution, you have to wait a really long time. It feels like ages until the coffee finally cools off to be body temperature so that you can insert it in your body, because we don't want you to scald yourself with boiling hot solution, right? So a way to get around that is to actually just boil half of the water, 2 cups of water instead of the full 4 cups. You're gonna end up, and I'll walk you through this process like I said, you're gonna end up adding your ground up coffee grounds to the French press with just the 2 cups of boiling water in the French press. You're gonna let it sit there for 20 minutes, and after it's done brewing, you add 2 cups of either room temperature water or cold water so that it brings the solution instantly to a temperature that is acceptable for you to go and do your enema right away. That's one of the biggest pieces of feedback, or I guess like negatives or complaints about a coffee enema from a lot of my clients would be, oh my gosh, it can just take a while to wait for the coffee enema solution to finally cool down, and then I have to go do my enemas back to back. And so that's a really great time hack where you can immediately bring it to a temperature that is acceptable for you to use. Okay, so we're gonna go and start boiling this solution, or boiling this water. Okay, so I have my 2 cups in there. And then in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my whole bean coffee. I used Kion. So this is a good certified organic mold-free coffee brand. You do not have to use this. I use theirs. It is their medium roast whole bean coffee. I do recommend getting whole bean because when you have the beans ground, when you get them, they're already essentially like oxidized. And so I want to keep my coffee as fresh and not oxidized as possible before I'm going and inserting it in my rectum. So Kion coffee, Life Boost, Purity coffee, look for an organic mold-free coffee. You're trying to detox your body when you're doing these coffee enemas, so don't be using coffee that's laden with pesticides and mycotoxins or mold toxins. So you want an organic mold-free coffee, and you want to make sure that if you can, make a light roast or a medium roast. It's better when it's lighter. If you can do medium, that's great. Darker roasts, they don't have as much of the palmitates and some of the other constituents in coffee that can make these so therapeutic. So try and stick with a light to a medium roast. Okay? All right. So I am going to pause really quick, grind this up, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, we have our 4 tablespoons of coffee all ground up here. I will be putting the step-by-step instructions in the comments beneath this as well. I just decided in the caption as best as I can on all platforms, just so that you guys have it written and you can kind of follow along as you're watching the video. Typical potency for your coffee enema solution will be 4 tablespoons to 4 cups of water, okay? But if you're someone that's just starting out, do 1 tablespoon, do 1.5 tablespoons, and titrate your way up as you'll feel comfortable with the potency. I didn't use anything special to grind up the coffee. This is literally just a cheap Hamilton Beach coffee grinder, okay? So you grind it up until it's as fine as you can possibly get it, all right? And then it is time to put it into our French press here. So I'm going to dump that in there, and then I want to explain to you guys why you want to use a French press instead of a regular coffee filter, okay? So I'm gonna unscrew this really quick. Why would you end up wanting to use a French press to make this versus a Mr. Coffee, for example, or a Keurig? Because the way that it is straining the coffee is different. It's not as fine as when you're using a regular coffee filter, right? So when you take these pieces apart for the French press, you see there's actually like a really fine mesh, okay? So this allows the coffee to get through and some really, again, valuable constituents of the coffee to be able to get through. If you're using a regular coffee filter and regular coffee brewing machine, you miss a lot of that stuff. So it is really important to use the French press, okay? I can link up the one that I have. You can find them on Amazon. This is just a stainless steel coffee press, okay? All right, so after we ended up putting our 4 tablespoons of coffee in there, this has already boiled. I will dump this 2 cups of water into the French press. And then I typically just take a knife and just kind of like stir it around a little bit, stir the water, stir the coffee grounds, and then I literally just place this lid on top, okay? You don't push it down until after it's done brewing. So you'll basically just let the coffee sit in there for at least 20 minutes. I just set my timer on my stove or on my phone, and then when it is done, I push this down, which means it's pulling all of the water, all of the coffee solution away from the grounds, because we're not putting the grounds in our enema, and then we just pour this straight into our coffee enema bucket, or you pour it into like a separate, glass mason jar or whatnot, and take it up into the bathroom with you. But that's essentially how you put that together. So just to recap, guys, we went and boiled 2 cups of water here. While that was boiling, we took 4 tablespoons of our coffee, that was whole bean coffee, threw it into the grinder, grinded it all up. As soon as it's ground up, you just toss that into the French press. You toss the water into the French press, and then you just put the lid on here, let it chill for 20 minutes, and then when you're done, push that down, and then you have your coffee that is ready. So now let's go to the next step. So for sake of efficiency, we're going to pretend that the coffee is now done brewing, okay? Remember, we have our 2 cups of solution in here, so we have to add the other 2 cups of water. This is going to be boiling hot when it's done, or at least way too hot to go into the body, so we need to pull the temperature down if we want to be able to go right away and use this for our immediate enema. So after this is done, of course I can't pour it right now, I pour the 2 cups of solution into a glass jar. I've also used like a stainless steel tumbler, like a Yeti or a Hydro Flask or something along those lines. You can go ahead and pour in the 2 cups of solution that you use to brew, but then go ahead and use 2 cups of distilled water that are either room temperature or ideally cold water, because you're immediately going to be adding it to something hot, and there, you're good, you're ready. I've also just added room temperature water, and the temperature is really just fine, so as long as it gets to body temperature, you're good to go. So after the whole 4 cups of solution is in here, I like to add something additional, especially for those who have trouble retaining coffee enemas or are worried about retaining. Using Organic Black Strap Molasses is a nice way to be able to boost the effectiveness of your coffee enema solution and help you to retain. There's so many great minerals in Organic Black Strap Molasses. So I typically add, you can add like 1 to 2 tablespoons into your 4 cups of solution, give it a good stir, and then we'll be adding in our other 2 little boosters upstairs in the bathroom. So I'm going to take them up with me because I add those in each individual enema. I don't add it to the whole solution. That's just how I prefer to do it. I guess you could add them all ahead of time, but just in case in between enemas, I feel like I want to go a little bit weaker or a little bit stronger with how many drops of each of these I put in there. I just wait until right before I do each enema for that. But you want to go and take your 4 cups of solution and your black strap molasses, get it all mixed together, and head to the bathroom. Okay, so this is my Aussie Health Co. bucket, stainless steel bucket, okay? I'll link it up for you guys. This is the only bucket that I've ever used. So when people ask about bags or other coffee enema bucket systems, seriously, feel free to get whatever you want. This has been easy to clean. It's lasted me well, so do whatever you feel works best for you. But it comes with a hose and a couple pieces. I'm gonna just run you guys through how to put that together. So again, you attach one end of the hose to the tip of the bucket here, the little spout. And then it's about, I don't know, probably like 6 feet long for the hose. You have a clamp that is on there that has a couple of notches. You wanna make sure that this is clamped all the way down and officially closed before you put your coffee enema solution in there, or you're gonna have a big mess. And then here are some of the other pieces. Here what I can easily pull apart just so I can show you guys. So there's a white and black piece. The white piece will go in first to the big hose, and then you will have the black piece that's sticking out on the end. Then you have this little extender here that you'll put over top of the black piece. You'll have a connector that you will put into that little white connector, and then whatever nozzle and tip you choose. There's a couple different ones that came with this bucket. This is the only one that I have ever used. So once you put all this together, this equals about 6 inches to enter into the rectum. When you are doing a coffee enema, you need to be able to reach the hemorrhoidal vein, so it needs to go about 6 inches into the rectum. If you are using another type of kit, I have had clients send some to me and say, you know, does this look long enough? I know it's supposed to go in 6 inches, and there have been some where like they don't have extender pieces, and maybe like it's just the nozzle, like the tip, and it's about 4 inches, and they're not feeling the differences or experiencing the coffee enema. It was a very weird process for them. So that's why just make sure that however much you're putting in, however much of the hose, the tip, whatever you're using goes into your rectum, it has to be 6 inches. That way, when you're just putting this in there, you're gonna hit this as a stopper. You're gonna be absolutely fine. So you don't have to worry about, oh, how far is it in? Well, when it stops, you'll know. You're right on in there. And now that your enema bucket is together and you got your clamp closed, you go and start pouring your solution into your bucket. Now, this is 4 cups of solution, right? We talked about that already. This is a lot of liquid for someone to retain. So I actually, and I recommend my clients to do this as well, split their coffee enema solution into 2 2-cup solutions, right? So you can either take a measuring cup and scoop out 2 cups here, or you can just pour half of it into the bucket and eyeball it. That's what I typically do as well, all right? So the reason that we do that, guys, is number 1, because it is easier to retain when you're trying to retain 2-cup solution than 4. And it also, I find, helps it to be more effective to do 2 back-to-back. Reason being because sometimes you can have stool, like bowel movement that is basically like it is your distal colon, right? It is ready to be able to come out. And so that first enema is almost like, it's like a pre-enema. It's almost like a pre-cleansing. It's like a prep in my eyes, because a lot of times the first one out of the 2 that you're doing, especially if you haven't had a bowel movement right before you went and were doing your enema, you may not be able to retain it as long. You're kind of cleaning things out and opening up the pathways so that you have a cleaner shot during the second one that you do. So that's what I found to be the most effective. Again, putting your 2 cups of solution in here, and then we would end up adding our next little friends here. So these are 2 different CellCore products. If you guys follow me, I talk about them a lot. So this is CT Minerals. You could add up to 10 drops in your 2-cup solution in here. So 10 drops per enema, so 20 drops total when you're going and doing your enemas. 10 drops in there. And then we have our HydrOxygen as well, that you can do up to 10 drops or so in there as well. Okay, I would, again, start very low, titrate your way up. If this is your first time doing a coffee enema, don't put those in there. Just get used to just doing the coffee and go ahead and add those in there when you're ready. But those can really help to boost the solution. It's just creating this, basically, there's just so much energy in the fulvic and the humic acids in there. The HydrOxygen is giving that molecular oxygen that's creating an environment that makes it very difficult for pathogens to be able to survive in there because it's an aerobic environment. There's so many benefits to it. I do break that down in my coffee enema highlight on Instagram, okay? So you have your 2 cups of solution in there. You added your CT minerals if you want. You added your HydrOxygen if you want. Then the next thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna oil up this tip. I use liquid coconut oil. I don't really know. I guess you could use several other different types of oils. I've only ever used coconut oil. So I just have it in like a little dropper. I drop it on there and that way it's nice and lubed up and ready for you to insert, okay? Get your towels laid on the floor in the bathroom. It's impossible for me to be able, I wish I had a camera person right now being able to show you everything, but just can't. Get your towels laid on the floor, get your bucket hanging up. We have ours on the towel rack here. Guys, you want it at least like 3 to 4 feet off of the ground. This is a lot higher clearly, and gravity has it go through the tube a little bit faster, so just kind of beware. The higher it is, the faster it's going to start to come out. But typically about like 3 to 4 feet off the ground is good. If you have a table that is in your bathroom, that should work. If you have like a shower, that's not going to be high enough as far as like the side of the shower of your tub is the word that I'm going for. So typically people either putting it on top of like a higher vanity, on a table, or hanging on the towel rack has always worked really well for me, okay? So once your coffee is in there, again, because mine's not in here right now, but once the coffee is in there, you just want to make sure that you tilt your bucket a little bit and you watch all the air bubbles come up so that there's no bubbles in your hose before you go and insert it in the rectum, because you're just gonna blow air in there and it's gonna be harder to hold, okay? So you got this clamped, you got this hung up, you let all the air bubbles go out, give it a little tilt if you need to. It might take a little bit, it'll get there. And then you lay yourself on the floor with your towels so you get a little comfortable. And I lay on my right side. Some people may lay on their back, some people may lay on their left side. I've heard of people doing everything. Your liver is on your right side, so to me, laying on the right side makes a lot more sense. You just kind of lay a little bit in like the fetal position. Your knees are tucked a little bit. You're gonna insert this. Clearly, I'm not gonna be showing this to you guys, so I hope this is enough of a visual for you. You're going to insert your lubricated tip into the rectum. And guys, if you just lay there and you relax, I promise you, you'll be fine. I was so freaked out when I was getting ready to do this, and like, who wants to stick something up their butt, really? But it's lubed, you're laying there, you're not clenching, you're literally just relaxing, breathing. You insert it in there and you're like, oh, that's it? That's fine? Great, you're good to go. Once it's in there, you start to just slowly release this clamp, release a couple of the notches and just like gently let it flow down. And then you're good to go. Once it's in there, start the timer on your phone. 15 to 20 minutes is typically what most practitioners will go ahead and recommend. 15 has been the time for the longest time. There are a lot of practitioners that have studied this a little bit longer and found that actually 20 minutes works really, really well also, and has given substantial benefits. So do whatever amount of time that you can. After 20 minutes, definitely go and void. So that's a big question that a lot of people have asked me, is that, okay, once this is in and I'm holding it for, 15 to 20 minutes, am I leaving this in the whole time? Yes, this is inserted in your rectum the entire time that you were retaining the solution. When your alarm goes off on your phone and it says, cool, 15 to 20 minutes is up, I personally, I don't know, I think I tried one time pulling it out before I go to the toilet and void, and it wasn't a good time. So I leave this inserted the entire way, walking on over to my toilet. Once you've sat down on the toilet, pull out your hose, and then you void the solution into the toilet. And you're good to go. That's it. So then you're ready to go ahead and pour your second 2 cups in there and go and do the same thing all over again. The last step now is to clean this thing after you're done your back-to-back enemas. So what I'll do is I will actually rinse this with warm water and soap first, and then let it soak in hydrogen peroxide solution. So what I do is I will pull off all the attachments except for this big hose, and then toss them on in. I typically leave the clamp on there as well. I will fill this with about 2 to 3 cups of warm water, a good non-toxic soap like Branch Basics. I'll link that up for you. I typically put like a pump or 2 of that in here, of the pre-made hand soap from Branch Basics that I have. And I basically run the water through the hose and clamp it at the end so that it's sitting in there for a little bit. All right, then I just put this in my tub. I let it soak as is so that there's water in the bucket with the attachments. There's water within this hose that it's clamped in there. Let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. Rinse it out, and then I do the same thing with the hydrogen peroxide. Again, I typically will do about 2 cups of the peroxide in there, leaving the attachments in the bucket. We'll let the peroxide flow through the hose, clamp it at the end, and let everything soak. I will wipe down the hose at the end. I disconnect everything. This is really a pain in the ass to pull off, so that's why I'm not pulling it off right now. But after I've run everything through, I will totally disconnect this hose. I will hang it up over our towel holder so that it's totally drying out. You don't want your hose to get moldy. Always make sure that you're looking out for that. I'm laying out all the little attachments on like a towel afterwards so they dry out, and I wipe out the inside of my bucket so that everything is as dry as possible. It's really the hose that is not possible to dry on your own. You have to kind of let it drip dry a little bit. So that basically brings us to the end of it, guys. Go ahead and throw your towels that you were laying on in the wash, and congratulations on doing your enema. If you follow my preference, I would really love for someone to do a good bioactive carbon binder 20 minutes before they're doing the enema, and if you're really, really sensitive, immediately after your enema as well. That's something that I didn't say at the beginning of this video there, but that is something that I absolutely prefer if possible. So I love CellCore's BioToxin Binder, ViRadChem Binder, HMET Binder is great as well, but typically BioToxin Binder and ViRadChem would be my go-tos beforehand. So hopefully that helps, guys. Hope you enjoyed this and have a blessed day.